Welcome to Locality's Making Bank podcast, where we continue our exploration of South Florida's entrepreneurial landscape with host Keith Costello, co-founder and CEO of Locality Bank. Sit back, relax, and let South Florida visionaries guide you on an entrepreneurial journey from tribulation to triumph, sharing the very stories that have shaped them.
Luke Moorman, welcome to Locality Bank's Making Bank podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have you, and we're happy to have you. You're a client of Locality Bank, so we're always happy to feature our entrepreneurial clients because that's what we're all about here, is helping local businesses, and we're happy to be able to help you. So we usually start off with just talking about your kind of like where you grew up and your history. I know you're a Fort Lauderdale guy. Yeah. You got an interesting background. So, why don't you tell everybody about, your family and how you grew up and your early childhood experiences?
Well, so my dad was in the Navy, graduated from Notre Dame, joined the Navy, was moved from base to base. So my older brother was born in Pensacola. I was born on the naval base in Charleston, South Carolina. And so my mom, a very strong woman, took my brother to the neighbor, said, "I'll be back in a few days," and drove herself to the hospital. And my dad was out to sea. So I always harass him a little bit. I'm like, "I'm not sure I'm your son." I was born with red hair, and he came back and had a red beard. So that was that. I go like, okay, I guess.
Thank God.
So after 2 days, the hospital's like, "Hey, do you know anything about the station wagon there in the parking lot?" And my mom's like, "Yeah, that's mine." And they're like, "Why is it here?" And she's like, "What do you mean? I drove myself to the hospital." "What do you mean you drove yourself to the hospital?" So a very, very strong mom, thank God. And then we moved to Guam in the South Pacific. So my first memories of life are from Guam. And my little brother is a Guamanian, an islander.
So how many brothers?
There's 5 of us.
Five
of us.
All brothers?
All boys.
Wow.
We're about 2 years apart.
You do have a strong mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's an iron fist, and she's I think she's about 100 pounds soaking wet. And we're all, about 6 feet or so. She's a very, very strong woman, very, very religious, and it's by the grace of God that wonderful, wonderful family. So, there's Robert, Luke, I'm the second born, John, Matthew, and then Mark. So
like the gospel
evangelist, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah.
So John was born on Guam. Matthew and Mark were born here in Fort Lauderdale. My grandparents came to Guam, said, "We want you in Fort Lauderdale." So my parents moved back to South Florida. They both grew up in Coral Gables, where our original South Florida store was. So they said, "We want you in Fort Lauderdale. We want you to run the Fort Lauderdale Carroll's Jewelers." So we moved back in '79 and have been here ever since. So, I grew up here in Fort Lauderdale and enjoying the big little town, really, because this is such a very intimate community. But it's a big community, but a little community, right? And so enjoyed the lifestyle of the beach and the intercoastal and jumping on a boat and going to the friend's house or water skiing and going to the yacht club, all that fun stuff that Fort Lauderdale has to offer. And It was great upbringing. Went to St. Anthony's and then graduated St. Thomas. So
yeah, well, that's where all my kids did that too. So
my son is there now, so we're very, very blessed.
Oh, great, that's awesome. Yeah. So tell me about growing up. I mean. And you were telling me earlier, like the jewelry business has been in the family this 4 generations. So you're growing up in a family that's had a family business, and I guess that creates some entrepreneurial.
Definitely. You have that independence aspect of you want to be your own boss, right? You want to take it and make it your own, and whether it was this business or any other business, right? I was going to be a business owner in some way, shape, or form. That's really the drive that I knew I would end up on. So,
I'm just curious, how did your dad end up in the Navy? Did he want to be a naval officer, or was it?
It was Vietnam was going on, and I think his number was a very low number. He actually tried to enlist, but the recruiter wasn't in the office. There was a lit cigarette on the desk. He went in looking for the recruiter to sign up because, if your number was called, you ended up in a different position than if you ended up. So I think through ROTC at the university, he ended up
at Notre Dame.
At Notre Dame was enlisted. So, there's a number of different factors associated with how he ended up there in the Navy.
Sure.
Yeah. So I guess it was about 4 years and then an honorable discharge. He was going to stay in Guam. He was going to buy a marina. He had a business partner, was going to buy a marina. And very interesting. My grandparents came out and my grandfather was like, this is not a good idea. And he's like, no, it's a great idea. I love it. Look, it comes with a boat. I got to go on my last deployment. When I come back, we'll talk about it more. And my grandfather and the other potential business owner went out fishing in the Pacific in a single engine boat that broke down.
Oh, wow.
And it was out there for a few days and had to be rescued by the Navy. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So I don't know. By the grace of God, he was rescued. They were rescued, the two of them. And I don't know whether that was the solidifying factor for your coming back to Fort Lauderdale or what was the, if that motor had not broken down, maybe I'd still be in Guam to this day. I don't know.
Wow. Interesting story. Yeah. So you graduate from St. Thomas and you end up, going to college. You're an athlete and all.
Yeah. So I went to college on scholarships. I was a swimmer and actually, spent my summers at LYC in the pool and mornings in the pram, right? The sailboat, right? And then the afternoons in the pool. And when I started swimming at St. Thomas, decided that was probably a good idea to do it a little bit more. Joined USA Swimming, which is a full-time program, year-round, 8 days a week kind of thing. Well, not 8 days a week, but 8 or 9 practices, right? 3 mornings a week, right? And then really the discipline was instilled in there, the hard work and just driven home. And my first college coach did some crazy practices. And then my second college coach did some crazy practice. Like we did an 18-hour swim one time where you swim for 3 hours, an hour and a half break, swim for 2.5 hours, an hour break, and we did that for 18 hours overnight. And so it's a very difficult transaction, right?
Yeah.
But you can look back on that and say, well, if I could do that, I can do this. Right. If I did that, I can do this. When I was at university, we swam outside one time. They had just built an outdoor pool. It was a wonderful experience, but it's Maryland. It's freezing. So before they shut down the pool for the winter, it was below freezing out, and we swam outside for a full practice on a Saturday morning. And when we got out, we had to walk on ice to get back to the locker room.
Sounds like a Tony Robbins.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, right? You just build off of those experiences. As long as you can show that you're working and striving towards something. It might not work out, right? I mean, and sometimes failure is what's going to lead to that next success, right? But using those as the stepping stones towards that next activity.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, Luke, because I think that fitness and pushing ourselves, that's one area that can create mental toughness to be able to overcome obstacles. And you face the same thing in business, right? It's you're going to constantly have challenges. And how do you overcome them? And a lot of it is right here, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just thinking, how can I?
Yeah, because you start this business and you think that you know everything about it from beginning to end. But day one, you're like, well, I didn't perceive that challenge, or I didn't. And unless you get creative and get past it, that's the key to a really great entrepreneur, I believe, is the creativity, right? Because you have to be willing to figure out how to get past that next roadblock, whether it's with an employee, whether it's with a customer, whether it's with a vendor, right? There's always going to be challenges along the way, and it's a roller coaster of everything, right?
I would say a mix of creativity and persistence too, right? Because you got to figure it out, but you also, that might not work. That might not work. You got to just keep at it.
You have to keep at it. You have to keep at it. You have to keep pushing. You know, when I was a kid, there was that great advertisement for the Dunkin' Donuts, right? Time to make the donuts, right? You just persistent. You get up every morning and you do that hard work that you need to do to keep pushing the ball forward.
Yeah, that's great advice. So you graduate from college, and then what do you do for your first?
So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I got a BS in biology. I had thought about going to medical school. I had thought about doing pharmaceutical reps. When I graduated, I got a certificate to be a teacher in Florida, Maryland, and New Jersey. I ended up moving to New Jersey, but I got the summer before, and I don't have a signed contract with any school. And I go to the paper and I started A's, right? Back then you had a newspaper and there was a section for jobs, right?
Yeah.
And you started A and I get to the S section and outside of New York, there's a whole page for stockbroker necessary. Stockbroker, no experience necessary.
Right. And make a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that's what it says right there in the ad, right? Make a lot of money. But I had always been very interested in the markets. I had always been very good and interested in numbers. I think it kind of stems from my mom, where she would sit at the kitchen table and do her books and everything. And you know, I might have been 5, 6, 7 years old, and she called me over and said, "Hey, there's this company called Knight Rider, and I own 100 shares, and they send me checks. And they produce newspapers, I think it was, and that just stuck in my brain." That and when I was in 4th grade, I was assigned. They gave us a piece of paper with a bunch of government entities on it, and said, "Write a report." And I pointed to the SEC. And they said, "Oh, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission." My mom said, "You know, Francis Moss, he's across the street over there. You should go interview him." So I in 4th grade, walked across Broward Boulevard, Federal Highway. You know, nowadays people are like, I wouldn't let my 4th grader cross Federal Highway. Walked across the street to the Templeton building and interviewed him about the Securities and Exchange Commission. What is it? Oh, it's the police department for, okay, well, great. So
Franny is a well-known guy here in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, he is.
Former
Mohawk
Mohawk also.
Great. Yeah, and he gave me some advice when I first started as a stockbroker, and I promptly took it. But so I've been always very interested. And when Carroll, my great-grandfather, passed away, he had left my mom $5,000, and she gave me $1,000 of it. She gave each one of her sons $1,000, and I bought Blockbuster Video. So I took Blockbuster Video from $10 a share and sold it as Viacom for $34, and had bought some other stocks. And so I was very interested and became a stockbroker that summer, and was in the market as a employee for a number of years before settling back here in South Florida, doing a couple of different things, and then starting with the family business.
So when did you come back to Fort Lauderdale?
I think, you know, the relationship with the girlfriend didn't work out, and I came down for some event, and it's like December or November or January, and it's freezing up there. I'm having to put shoes on.
I was in New York.
I was in New Jersey.
New Jersey, okay.
And I come down, and I'm at the Coral Reef Yacht Club in Coral Gables, and I look up, and there's a parrot in a palm tree, and I'm going, what in the world am I doing living in New Jersey?
That was a sign.
So yeah. So I was a couple weeks later, I was back here. I think I was back. If you had asked me at that party if I was moving home, I probably would have said no. But I was home, I think, for Christmas a couple weeks later. So that's
nice.
The sun and the palm trees brought me back.
Great. So what year is that you're coming back?
99, 2000. I think I moved. Oh, no. So I was up there for a few years. I graduated college in 99. I think I came back for New Year's of 2001.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was here for 9/11.
Okay. And then where do you go from there? You shoot back in Fort Lauderdale?
I get a few different jobs because I'm living at home with my brothers, and they're having a good life. And whether or not I come home at 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock, there's still a good life being had there. So I figured I better just work as much as I can to make as much money as possible. And my brothers and I start investing together. So we decide that the five of us are better as a team, and we're going to get together once a month, and we're going to throw $100 in the center of the table. Hopefully everybody has the $100. If you don't, fine, whatever. We're not going to judge, but because some of us are still in high school at this point.
Yeah.
And we just start collecting that money up. I'm going to real estate seminars. I'm reading real estate books. I'm learning as much about real estate because my mind, that is where you're going to build long-term wealth in real estate, right? So we're working together as a team. And at some point in time, we decide that there is a jewelry store that our parents own, that we are potentially the fourth generation of, and that this could potentially be a very valuable asset if we treat it like such. So we start examining it in a different light, right? Because it's one thing to say, oh, that's my parents, it's no big deal, I don't really want anything to do with it. To go, well, maybe it is something I do want something to do with. So started examining it, started working part-time, really enjoyed it. I did not perceive that I would like it. I actually, family dynamics is a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. And to go into a family business, both parties have to go eyes wide open and have a long-term thought process and a plan. And so I started in it slowly and eventually full-time, and then started buying real estate together as a team. The five of us got wiped out in 2009, 2010, yep. Right? We were in
along with everybody
family.
else.
Yeah. So then we swore off. We're like, no residential.
Right.
It's a pain in the butt, right? You're single place, single tenant, and then obviously there's some great advantages to owning an individual single residence. But if that tenant doesn't pay, that you got a single mortgage with a single, and then if you got to evict them, you got to pay a lawyer, and you got to, it's got its trials and tribulations. So we wanted commercial, multi-tenant type deal is what we were thinking, or another small business that would produce some income. And my brother had joined the jewelry store, so now there's two of us. My uncle decides to close. We were hoping to buy the Coral Gables store, the original Coral Gables jewelry store that had been open since 1946. Our store that we're in opened in 1961. He ends up closing it. It's a downturn. There's it's
right.
The people are, and he's of retirement age, so he decides to close it. So we're focusing on our single store, but we're going, okay, what's our next real estate adventure? And we're looking, and we come across the Georgia Pig. So I promptly reach out to the owners and investigate that.
Tell people what the Georgia Pig is, because they may not understand that.
Nobody. Oh my gosh.
We have listeners worldwide.
Yes, that's true. So here in South Florida, founded in 1953, a family from Jessup, Georgia, created a little barbecue restaurant called the Georgia Pig. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Back then, it was a butcher shop from the 1940s that they bought and put a front and a back on, and opened up on Friday the 13th, February 1953. And they spent all their money building it out, didn't have enough money for chairs when they first opened. So they had a counter, they had some refrigerators, they had steaks in there, and you could pick your steak out and they would cook it on the open fire for you. They were cooking barbecue. The founder's sister had opened a restaurant in Jessup in the 1940s and was doing gangbusters. They were using the recipes from the farm that they grew up on from their mom, and then had acquired some additional recipes, including a sauce recipe. And so they came down and helped them open up and shared these additional thought processes and procedures and recipes with them, and did very well. 441 back then is the I-95 of today. So if you were going between New York and South Florida, you were driving on 441. So the restaurant in Jessup was on 441, and the restaurant here in South Florida has been on 441 since 1953. So I was a breakfast customer. I went there as often as possible for breakfast. Absolutely loved the biscuits and gravy. We make our own sausage. We use a spice blend that's unique to us, and we use that to make the sausage gravy. It's absolutely phenomenal. Sometimes I think I bought it just for that sausage, but it was come to our attention that they were interested in selling it, and so the second generation had been running it for 40 years. Which, okay, well, in a business for 40 years, yes, that sounds normal. A restaurant for 40 years, that's a tough deal. And, you don't realize that until after you're in there, right? That's one of those things. You have to be resilient. You have to, and so we negotiate a deal over a period of a year and a half or so. And we both go to our lawyers and start the structure of it. But I don't have a bank. So through my connections, I have a friend who's working for a bank and says, this is the type of deal that we would do. He says, I can't work with you, but I can put you with a different banker, right? We have an existing relationship. I can't structure this for you. I don't want there to be anything look funny. So bank offers us a deal. And so we finalized that after negotiating for a year and a half. We buy the Georgia Pig, and that's 12 years ago. But what we did was buy the restaurant, bought the land, and an additional piece of land all at the same closing. So the second generation owned the restaurant by himself. Him and his sisters owned a piece of land, and then him and his wife owned a piece of land. And so all that needed to close at the same time. And I was able to convince him to hold a second note. So for closing costs and a small deposit, we were able to acquire the Georgia Pig.
Great.
So yeah, we got very, very blessed, and it was really by creating a win-win, right? And that's the foundation of I think a good entrepreneur, a good businessman, is creating that win-win over and over again, because then you have that strength of somebody else on the other side who can say, hey, you can do business with this guy because they're honorable, because they do what they say they're going to do. And so that was, it's a great transaction. I gained a new friend out of it. We still talk all the time. I do have 4 years left on that note. But yeah, it was great. And then that allowed us a couple years later to acquire another piece of commercial property. And both of those loans are now with Locality, thank God. So
thank you.
We're very blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're happy to be able to help you, as I said before. So that's a great story. I mean, I think that's so true, because we talked earlier about what a small town Fort Lauderdale is, right? And Fort Lauderdale really is not a small town. I mean, it's a big city now. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's true no matter where you are, that when you're talking about the business community in an area, it is a small network of people, even in New York City or Miami. Yeah, the business people know each other, and your reputation can either benefit you or kill you. Yeah. And having a great reputation, and having been here for since 1985 myself in Fort Lauderdale doing the same thing, your reputation is everything. Yeah. Or you have to leave town. It's just like, and then hopefully nobody hears about what you did in your last town if you have a bad reputation.
Well, and nowadays that's unrealistic, right?
It's true.
The way communication moves, everything you do is your reputation,
That's very true. Yeah, everything moves. Communication moves so rapidly. So that's a great story about how you ended up take it home. And the food at the Georgia Pig is amazing.
So we're known for me, obviously, the biscuits and gravy, but we're known for a chopped pork sandwich. We cook on an open fire. So we have a vinegar-based sauce, and we do a chopped pork, and we do a sweet coleslaw.
So tell everybody who's local where exactly, if they don't know where the Georgia Pig is.
So we're on 441 north of 595. We're basically at the intersection of Davie Boulevard and 441. Okay. There's a Seminole Indian drive-through cigarette shop. We're 2 doors down from there.
So you go down, shoot craps at the casino, and then go have a nice pork sandwich.
Yeah.
All right. So you've also got the jewelry business.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, what the future of that business is with your parents. And
I want to circle back to something you just said, because I see that in my great-grandfather. One of the advertising campaigns he did, it was probably in the 40s or 50s, was Carroll's a gift that speaks well of you before the box is open, right? Because we always concentrated on quality products, right? And so whether it was a gift item or a jewelry item, it's the quality, right? And so when you see that brand, Carroll's, right, it was quality that it was instilled. And he had got into the jewelry business through watches. He was worked with Gruen, the watch manufacturer out of Cincinnati. He grew up in Cincinnati. And in the 1920s, started buying jewelry stores. And so he had a few throughout the Midwest. And in the 1930s, created a large store in Cincinnati at 5th and Main, and had that store for 15 years or so. But prior to returning to Gruen, he worked for Merrick. Merrick is a gentleman who developed Coral Gables, started the University of Miami. So he was selling property for a brief period of time for Merrick. He says he left right before the hurricane of 26. So goes back up to Cincinnati, starts working for Gruen again in the advertising, starts buying jewelry stores. So our 100-year anniversary is coming up in 2028.
Wow.
So all the focus that my generation has right now is to lead us to the new structure of the way business works towards that. But he comes back in 46, creates the South Florida store on Miracle Mile. In the 50s, he works with public access television show. I don't know if it was Channel 2 or some other public access television, and creates a television show called Fastest and Gems, and starts having people who drive from West Palm Beach to Miami to do business with him. So he expands to Fort Lauderdale. So in 1961, opens the Fort Lauderdale store that we're still in today. And I thought at one point in time I would open up additional operations. But I think the way technology moves now, really we're going to concentrate on being a provider to empower a salesperson, right? Because the way you can buy stuff now, you don't necessarily have to go into a store, right? Everybody's buying stuff from Instagram or TikTok right on their phone, right? You have to trust and be comfortable with that product, or it'd be the price point, $10. Okay, if I get robbed on this piece of plastic, right, I don't care. Well, jewelry's not that way. So we want to empower salespeople that have the quality behind them and the know-how, and allow them the infrastructure. So it's a little bit of a stretch, and we're starting the process now. But I'm hoping to have 100 salespeople by our 100th anniversary. Wow. I got a year and a half of infrastructure that I've been working on inside the store since my parents took a step back at the beginning of last year. My wife joined the business. My brother John and I have been working as partners in it since the early 2000s. So with the advent of my wife's new energy, with my parents stepping back, we're really making a lot of changes. Visually and or operationally, it might not seem that way from an everyday customer. We really focused on the behind the scenes structure, and we're really taking very diligent steps, one moment at a time, to make sure that the foundation is there. And we're stepping through it as diligently as we can. And we're excited for the future.
That's great. I mean, the jewelry business, I think, obviously the banking business, we rely on trust, right? It's a trust business. I think jewelry, same thing. Because most people know very little about jewelry, right?
Yeah.
You really have to trust the person you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so, I think you've definitely got, with the reputation and what you're talking about doing there, it sounds like a very good plan that you have going forward.
I hope so.
So when is the 100th anniversary? It'll be
2028.
2028. So 100 salespeople by 2028. That's a ambitious goal, and I wish you all the best with that.
Yeah. And even if I, what do they say? Shoot for the moon, or shoot for the stars. And what's the worst case happen? You hit the moon. That's kind of. So if I end up with 20 high quality individuals that are devoted to providing a quality product to individuals out there in the social space, right? The digital space. It's hard to identify what is social and what's, because they say social media, but it's a lot more than social media, right?
Yeah.
And the way the infrastructure works with technology and tracking and all the back end stuff, it's a different world. So I'm excited for the future.
Well, just like jumping in that pool when it was freezing, don't cut that goal, man. Go, you put it out there, Okay. Let's jump in that freezing pool again and go for it. So, so tell people where is the jewelry store located?
So we are at 915 East Las Olas Boulevard, and so we moved there in 1961. And at the time, there's no buildings on either side. So we have photographs where there's palm trees on either side of the store. And it's a 4-lane road like it is today, but there's no median. So the median was put in the 1970s. So as we go through our history boxes, we're able to say, oh, well, this image has this, so I know it's pre-73, or this image has that. It's this time period or that period. Oh, look, there's an image of the building being built next door. So we moved in 61 and have been very blessed to be part of the community. We've seen, I can remember the 80s when there was 6 jewelers up and down the boulevard. And there's jewelers that come and go, and that's okay. But we're very blessed. We do own our building. We generationally have been able to own it from one generation to the next. So my parents own it now, and me and my brothers will own it in the future, and that's key to building wealth, right? Is making sure that foundation underneath you. And there's some advantages to doing a lease, in which you have a lower price point or cost to entry, right? Because you're building your business in a different way. But for us, especially my generation, like I said, we're real estate. We're looking at the foundation of the real estate underneath us, so that long term, we've got that stability. There's some difficulties with that, right? Because when you think about things in multi-decade facets, and you're like, okay, well, I can secure this transaction. But when you think about it that way, it doesn't necessarily mean you thought about it for cash flow. So, you have to look at every side and decide what the best is for you at that moment in time. But for us, relying on that, paying that mortgage payment opposed to a rent payment is very important to us.
Well, I think so. Thank you for bringing that's music to my ears as a bank that wants to help local companies. We've seen a lot of businesses that they've been around for 30, 40 years, and the owner is ready to retire, and he gets this much for the business and this much for the building that he owns.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times that difference between what you pay in rent and what you pay for a mortgage is very small, and sometimes it's the same. Yeah. So, and we're happy to talk to anybody about those owner-occupied buildings. That's we're one of the specialty areas, and there's some very, very SBA 504 and some other programs that allow with very little money down and very attractive rates to be able to own your own real estate.
Well, and when you are devoted in that way, everybody realizes it. right? Your banker realizes, the federal government realizes that you're going to wake up earlier, you're going to stay later, you're going to put in that due diligence to make sure that you're successful year after year.
Yeah.
But it's
well, thank you, Luke. Any last bits of advice or anything you want to offer before we go to the lightning round?
I'm very blessed to work with my brothers, and it is through the grace of God that we continue to work as a family. And it's not easy, you have to be willing to forgive. You have to be willing to forgive yourself, right? It's the same with a marriage, right? You have to think long term. And so I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my brothers, and I appreciate all the hard work they do.
Well, that's very nice. And so with that, we're going to go to the lightning round, where we're just going to ask you to come back with some quick answers to some of these questions. So I'm going to start with, what is something you're grateful for today?
My wife and kids. I'm very blessed. Erica Moorman loves me, and I love her. And we have a son together named Thomas, who is in high school, and we're a very blessed family. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. How about your favorite book?
So if I had to recommend something based upon, looking back on preparing for this, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willnick's book. Yeah. Taking ownership of every aspect, right? Because it's your world that you have created, and if you start blaming somebody else, you can get lost in this minutia of trying to figure out how to blame that person the right way so you can justify this. If you just take ownership of what's going on, you can move forward. You can forgive yourself. You can forgive somebody else for the problems that they have created for themselves or you, right? So I really enjoyed that book. I would recommend that to anybody who's trying to push to a new adventure, to a new level, right? To take ownership.
What's the toughest business problem that you've had to overcome?
I believe that our greatest asset is our employees. So as much as I believe in the real estate, my investment has always been in my employees. And whether it is the jewelry store or the restaurant, they are the double-edged sword, right? They're the thing that brings you the most reward and the most difficulty. I always believe that if I take care of my employee, they're going to take care of the customer. So that has been my focus in making sure that we push forward, in that I want to create a structure in which my employee can succeed, and they'll allow that to the business to flourish. And that's the huge advantage of the Georgia Pig, is that the employees don't turn. Now, obviously, we have some turn, dishwasher, this or that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say the biggest challenge is employee negotiations.
Great. Other than the Georgia Pig, what's your favorite local restaurant?
I love Cafe Vico on Federal Highway. Yeah, that's probably my go-to. And my wife was a little upset when we first started dating. She's like, "Oh, I'm dating this guy who works on Las Olas Boulevard. He's the president of Las Olas Association. We're going to go out to Las Olas every night." But I want to go out and I want to enjoy my meal, and I don't want to run into another business owner who's got a gripe about something. What do you mean we're not going to Las Olas? No, we're going. So Cafe Vico is a great little spot for enjoying my meal, and
it's where we have the Comanche
service.
The Comanche Sachem dinners there. I mean, it's a great location. Marco does a great job.
Yeah, he does.
Who's someone living or dead that if you could have dinner with, you would do that?
I wish I had more time with my grandfather to get to know him a little bit better. He was a big influence on my life, but I was a kid, And but I did get some adventures with him that I know my other nieces and not nieces, cousins did not get. And he was a great man. He was on the beaches of Okinawa
Wow.
a great Marine. He was actually part of the first wave to go into Japan. To push through that type of transaction and move forward and learn, right? I would like to spend more time with him.
What is something that you are learning, something new, like a skill or?
The digital world, right? I mean, there's so many different aspects to the connecting the products to the other platform and getting the right imagery corrected and the right lighting corrected, and so that's a process I'm dealing with right now, is all the ins and outs of Shopify and how the Shopify connects to this and which app you have to use to get that data and this data, and so it's the digital world of communication so that I can provide that foundation for the employees. So if I can make it right for 2, I can make it right for 200, right?
And it seems like it's constantly evolving and changing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, especially with AI. And so talk about AI.
Well, it's interesting because what would have been a very expensive endeavor 5 years ago is now it's either a free run through or a $20 monthly subscription, or so that process is very unique in the development of AI. I see it as allowing the creative to be more creative, right? It's going to take things that require a lot of attention and minimize that attention so that you can really focus on what's valuable to you. I do believe in humanity, and I think it's going to allow us to be a much better society. And it's never easy, right? There's a give and a take on everything, but I think it ultimately will be a huge advantage for us.
Great. Well, thank you, Luke. Last, how can people get in touch with you? So
follow us on Instagram, right?
Okay.
Well, that's for the jewelry store or Georgia Pig.
You're on Instagram on both those. Okay.
Yeah. For me, the best way to get in touch with me is actually walk through the door. And come and see me
at the jewelry store.
At the jewelry store, I'm at the jewelry store full time.
Okay.
7 days a week. We're Sunday through Wednesday, 12 to 5, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 11 to 7. But I guess as I get busier and busier, I'm really starting to be by appointment only. So you can call the jewelry store, look up our website, and make an appointment with me.
Yeah. What's the website?
carrollsjewelers.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
So make an appointment, go get yourself a nice piece of jewelry for, do some early holiday shopping.
Or go to the restaurant and get yourself a chopped pork sandwich, right? So,
can't go wrong with either one of those things.
Yeah. So our sauce is a Carolina style mustard-based vinegar. So it's got that goldish tinge to it. Okay. So one of my dad's favorite sayings is that we're in solid gold downtown and liquid gold out west.
What a great way to wrap it up. All right. Well, from the jewelry business to good, barbecue, you can't go wrong with either one of those things. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Locality's Making Bank podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to catch the latest episodes, and visit localitybank.com today to learn more about all the benefits of banking local.